Welcome to my channel. I hope you like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to knit these diaper covers or baby shorts for 0 to 3 months. I made them to match the little sweater that I showed you a couple months ago, the Lily cardigan. In the information box, I'll go ahead and leave you the link to that tutorial. Now, these little shorts or diaper cover, like I said, are for 0 to 3 months, but you can easily make them smaller or bigger. I'd say from a newborn size and up to 12 months. In the information box below, I'll go ahead and leave you some information on how you can easily make it smaller or bigger, so be sure to check that out. And as always, if you prefer a written pattern, check out my Etsy shop. I'll leave the link to my Etsy shop up here on the right hand side and in the information box below. Thank you so much for your support. Now, to make these little shorts or diaper cover along with the matching little sweater, this is the yarn that I used. This is Aran weight yarn, but you can also use any number 4 yarn or 10 ply. For the 0 to 3 month size, I used a total of 43 grams. Depending on the size that you make, you may need less or more. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. Thank you so much for watching. To begin, I'll be using these 4.5mm circular knitting needles. These are 16-inch long, and today I'm using this Aran weight yarn. At the beginning of the video, I showed you the yarn that I'm using, and I told you how much yarn we're going to need for the size that we're making here in this tutorial. You can also use any number 4 yarn or 10 ply. If you need gauge information, I always leave that in the information box, and I also leave the finished measurements at the end of the tutorial. So here, to begin, the first thing that we need to do is cast on our stitches. I need to cast on a total of 66 stitches plus 1, so 67 stitches. I'm going to show you how to cast on your stitches using the long tail cast on method. I like this method because the first row is nice and loose, and we want that especially for baby garments. Now for the diaper cover, I'm going to start with the waistband, and then we're going to work our way down and work the body and then separate the legs. So to begin here, I need to measure my yarn. So these needles here are a little short, so I'm going to use this other needle here. It's the same size. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to wrap the yarn around both needles 20 times. That's 2, 19, 20. Okay, so here I have enough yarn for about 20 stitches. I need to cast on 67. So double it up. I have enough for 40. Double it up again. I have enough for 60, and now just double it up again. We have enough for about 80 stitches. It's best to have some left over than to have to do this again. So now just make a slip knot right here and insert both needles through this loop like this. Now this here is the yarn that we just measured, and this here is coming from the skein. Now insert your index finger and open up the yarn, and we're going to go from left to right, and we're going to grab a loop like this. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on until you have a total of 67 stitches. Continue. I'll come back and show you what we need to do next. I finished casting on my stitches. I have 67 stitches. Now carefully remove one of the needles, and now we're going to begin with the first row, but first we're going to join in the round. Now I added an extra stitch, and this extra stitch is just to join in the round. In my left needle, I have the first stitch that I cast on, and on my right needle, I have the last stitch that I cast on. I'm going to bring the first stitch onto the right needle, and then I'm going to bring the last stitch that I cast on over this first stitch like this and drop it. Just drop it. And now just pull, and that stitch is going to close, and now you're joined in the round. Now I'm going to add a stitch marker. This is going to mark the beginning of the row, so I highly recommend that you place a stitch marker here. So here, to begin, I'm going to knit 1, then purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. Now I'm using these short needles, but you can also use longer needles and just knit the diaper cover in the round using the magic loop technique. I'm going to be using these shorter ones. I think they're much easier. So here all you have to do is just knit one and purl one all around like this. This is a 1 by 1 ribbing, and we're going to do a total of, I don't know, 7, 8 rows here for the waistband. And this is all we're going to do, is just knit one, purl one. So continue, finish this first row of the waistband. I'll meet you at the end. I finished the first row. In this row, I have knit one, purl one all the way around this row. My last stitch here is a purl. I have 66 stitches. Now for row 2, we're going to repeat the same thing. We're going to knit one and purl one. Knit one, purl one. And this is how we're going to continue all around for row 2. Now after you finish row 2, you're going to pass the stitch marker and then repeat the same thing. This is what we're doing right now, the waistband, where we knit one and purl one, and we're going to do this for a total of 8 rows. So continue, finish these 8 rows, and then I'll come back and show you what we need to do next. I finished the waistband. I did a total of 8 rows. If you want to make this part here wider, you can add more rows. I have a total of 66 stitches. Now in the next row, what I'm going to do is I'm going to knit all around, and I'm going to add 2 extra stitches so that at the end of this row, the first row here of the body, I have a total of 68 stitches. Now to make these increases, there is no right or wrong way of doing it. You can do it anywhere as long as you have 2 extra stitches. I plan to do one right about here and the other one right about here. So to do this, let me show you how we're going to increase these 2 stitches. So knit the first stitch and knit until you're about here. So that's 2, 3, 20. I've knit 20. Now this is where I'm going to make 1 extra stitch. So pick up this bar that's between this stitch and the next one, put it onto the needle like this from back to front, and knit this stitch here through the back. Now knit all around until you have 20 stitches left, and then make the other increase. So that's 2. Let me see, here's the increase, that's 2, 26. Now I'm going to make 1 right again. So lift up this bar, put it on top of the needle from back to front, and knit this through the back. There, I have increased 2 stitches, and now I'm just going to knit to the end of the row. So it's 1, 2, 19, 20. There, I have finished the first row of the body. I have increased 2 extra stitches, so at the end of this row I have 68 stitches. Now for rows 2, 3, 4, and 5, we're just going to knit all around like this. And at the end of each row, I'm going to have 68 stitches. So continue, finish these next rows, row 2, 3, 4, 5. So the next 4 rows, and then I'll come back and show you what we need to do next. I'm here at the end of row 5. I have finished row 2, 3, 4, and 5. In these rows, I have knit all around. Now for row 6, we're going to purl across. So beginning with the first stitch, purl, and continue like this up to the last stitch. I will meet you right here to show you how we're going to finish this purl row. I'm here at the end of the 6th row. In this row, I have purled across. I have the last stitch here. Now, to finish the purl row, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to slip the last stitch, remove that stitch marker, Now I have the first stitch. I'm going to pick up the purl bump and I'm going to put it onto the left needle from back to front, like this. Now I'm going to bring back the stitch that I slipped. This is the last stitch, onto the left needle, and now I'm going to purl these two stitches together, like this. And this is how we're going to finish each row when we do the purl row. Now return the stitch marker. For row 7, I'm going to knit across. Continue, finish row 7. I will meet you at the end. I'm here at the end of row 7. In this row, I knit all around past the stitch marker. For row 8, I'm going to purl all around, like this. So continue. I will meet you here one stitch before we finish the 8th row to show you how we're going to finish the purl row. I'm here at the end of the 8th row. In this row, I have purled across. I have the last stitch. So here I'm going to slip the last stitch. I'm going to remove the stitch marker, and now I'm going to lift up the purl bump of the first stitch in row 8. This stitch right here. So lift it up and put it onto the left needle from back to front. And now return the last stitch onto the left needle and purl these two stitches together. And this completes row 8. Now we have completed one repeat. Each repeat will consist of 8 rows. So now I'm going to start the second repeat. So I'm going to knit for a total of 5 rows, like this. So continue. Finish this first row of the second repeat, and then for row 2 through 5 you're going to repeat the same thing. You're going to knit. I recommend that you place a stitch marker here into the first stitch to mark the first row of the repeat. That way you know that from here on you're going to count 5 rows, and then we're going to do this part again for row 6, 7, and 8. So go ahead and finish these next 5 rows. I'll come back and show you what we need to do next. Okay, I finished these 5 rows for the second repeat. In these rows, I have knit all 5 rows. Now, for row 6, I'm going to purl across. And this is how I'm going to continue for row 6. Just purl all around. I will meet you here at the end, one stitch before we finish. I'm here at the end of row 6 for the second repeat. I have the last stitch here. Now, this stitch here, I'm going to slip. Remove the stitch marker for a moment, and now I have the first purl stitch of row 6. Lift up the purl bump, put it onto the left needle from back to front. Return the last stitch onto the left needle and purl these 2 stitches together. And here is row 6 for the second repeat. Now for row 7, all you're going to do is just knit across. After you finish row 7, you're going to purl for row 8. I will meet you at the end of row 8 to show you how to finish the purl row once again. I finished the last 2 rows, row 7 and 8. In row 7, I knit all around, and row 8, I purled. I'm at the end of row 8, so here at the end, remember to always slip the last stitch, remove the stitch marker, and here we have the first stitch of row 8. This is a purl stitch, so lift up the purl bump here and put it onto the left needle from back to front. Now bring back the last stitch that you slipped onto the left needle and purl these 2 stitches together. And this completes row 8. We have done a total of 2 repeats so far. From here on, you're going to continue and repeat these last 8 rows for a total of 4 repeats. So here I'm going to start you off with the first row to the 3rd repeat. So all you have to do here for 5 rows is just knit. And then row 6, purl, row 7, knit, and then row 8, purl. And those are the 8 rows that we're going to repeat. So go ahead, finish the 3rd and the 4th repeat. I'll come back and show you what we need to do next. And remember, at the end of each one of these rows, we always have 68 stitches. I just finished the 4th repeat. So in total, I have 4 repeats here. So that's a total of 32 rows. We have 8, 16, 24, 32. Now for repeat number 5, I'm just going to knit for a total of 4 rows. And then we're going to start on the gusset. So here for 4 rows, go ahead and knit all around. I'll come back and show you what we need to do after we finish these 4 rows. I finished the last 4 rows where I knit all around for the 5th repeat. Now we're going to start on the gusset, but before we do that, we're going to place some stitch marker. Here is my beginning of the row stitch marker. It's in a different color. Make sure that you do the same thing. Now, I have 1 stitch, then a stitch marker. From this stitch marker to the next, I have 32 stitches. I have 2 stitches here, then a stitch marker. From this stitch marker to the next, I have 32 stitches, and then I have 1 stitch here after this stitch marker. So for the back side, I have 2 stitches, 1 and 2. For the front, I have 2 stitches as well. So that's a total of 68 stitches. Now, what I plan to do in this first row of the gusset, which is going to be row 6 of the 5th repeat, I'm going to make an increase here before this stitch marker. I'm going to knit 32, pass the stitch marker, make an increase, knit these 2 stitches, make an increase, pass the stitch marker, knit 32, pass the stitch marker, and then make my last increase here before I finish with the last stitch. So to begin here with row 1 of the gusset, which is row 5 of the 5th repeat, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to knit 1. Now what I'm going to do is a left leaning increase, so I'm going to make 1 left. Pick up this bar, put it onto the needle from back to front, and knit this through the back. This is a make 1 left. Now pass the stitch marker and knit 32. 1, 32. Pass the stitch marker and make 1 right. Lift up this bar, put it onto the left needle from front to back, and then knit this through the front. That's a make 1 right. Now knit 2 stitches, and before we pass the stitch marker, make 1 left. Pick up this bar, put it onto the needle from back to front, and knit this through the back. That's a make 1 left. Pass the stitch marker and knit 32. That's 2, 32. Pass the stitch marker, make 1 right, pick up this bar, put it onto the left needle from front to back, and knit this through the front. Now knit 1, pass your beginning of the row stitch marker, and this completes the first row to the gusset, which is row 5 of the 5th repeat. At the end of this row, we have increased 4 extra stitches, so I have a total of 72 stitches at the end of this row. Now for row 2 of the gusset, which is row 6 of the 5th repeat, we're going to purl across. So purl 2, pass the stitch marker, purl 32, and when you come here to the stitch markers, you're going to pass the stitch marker, purl 4, pass the stitch marker, purl 32. I will meet you at the end of row 6 of the 5th repeat, which is row 2 of the gusset. I'm almost done with row 2 of the gusset, which is row 6 of the 5th repeat. I have purled these last 32 stitches. I passed the stitch marker, and here I'm going to purl 1, and then I have the last stitch. I'm going to slip this stitch purlwise, remove this beginning of the row stitch marker for a moment, and now lift up the purl bump of the first stitch, put it onto the left needle from back to front, return the last stitch, and purl these 2 stitches together. Now return the beginning of the row stitch marker. This completes row 2 of the gusset, which is row 6 of the 5th repeat. Here I'm only going to complete this 5th repeat. That's why I keep repeating the rows for the repeat. But after that, we're not going to continue with this pattern. So now for row 3 of the gusset, which is row 7 of the 5th repeat, in this row I need to increase. So here I'm going to knit 2. And here I'm going to make 1 left. Pick up this bar, put it onto the needle from back to front, and knit through the back. So make 1 left. Pass the stitch marker and knit 32. That's 1, 32. Pass the stitch marker, make 1 right, pick up this bar, put it onto the needle from front to back, and knit this through the front. Knit 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, make 1 left, pick up this bar, put it from back to front, and knit this through the back. Pass the stitch marker, knit 32. 1, 32. Pass the stitch marker, make 1 right, pick up this bar, put it onto the needle from front to back, and knit this through the front. Now knit 2, pass your beginning of the row stitch marker, and this completes row 3 of the gusset, which is row 7 of the 5th repeat. At the end of this row, I have a total of 76 stitches. In this row we have increased, so now for the center part here of the gusset, we have 6 stitches. 2, 4, 6. Same thing here for the front. 2, 4, 6. Now for row 4 of the gusset, which is row 8 of the 5th repeat, we're going to purl across. That's purl 3 here, pass the stitch marker, purl 32, and when you come to the stitch marker, you're going to pass the stitch marker, purl 6, purl 32, pass the stitch marker, then purl 2. I will meet you here 1 stitch before we finish the row to show you how we're going to finish this purl row. I'm here at the end of row 4 of the gusset, which is row 8 of the 5th repeat. I have purled across. Here is the next stitch marker. To finish here, we're going to purl 2, slip the next stitch purlwise, remove the beginning of the row stitch marker, pick up the purl bump of the first stitch, put it onto the left needle from back to front, return the last stitch, and purl these 2 stitches together. And this completes the 5th repeat. From here on, I'm going to continue with the stockinette stitch. Now for row 5 of the gusset, in this row we need to increase. So here to begin, I'm going to knit 3, make 1 left, pick up this bar, put it onto the left needle from back to front, and knit this through the back. Pass the stitch marker. Now knit 32. 1, 31, and 32. Pass the stitch marker, make one right, pick up this bar, put it onto the needle from front to back, and knit this through the front. Now knit 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, make one left, knit through the back. Now for the front of the gusset, I have 8 stitches, 2, 4, 6, 8. Pass the stitch marker, and here I'm going to knit 32. That's 2, 32. Pass the stitch marker, make one right, knit 3, 1, 2, 3. Pass the beginning of the row stitch marker. This completes row 5 of the gusset. We have increased 4 extra stitches, so at the end of this row I have 80 stitches. For the front and back of the gusset, I have 10 stitches now. Now for row 6 of the gusset, all we're going to do is just knit all around like this. Continue, finish row 6 where you just knit all around. I will meet you at the end of this row. I finished row 6 of the gusset. I have 80 stitches. Now for row 7 of the gusset, we're going to increase here. So to begin, I am going to knit 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now make one left, pass the stitch marker, and now I'm going to knit 32. That's 2, 32. Pass the stitch marker, make one right, knit 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, make one left, pass the stitch marker, and knit 32. 1, 32. Pass the stitch marker, make one right, and here knit 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This completes row 7 of the gusset. In this row we have increased. I have a total of 84 stitches at the end of this row. Now for row 8 of the gusset, all you're going to do is just knit all around, and at the end of this row you're going to also have 84 stitches. Continue, finish this row where you knit all around. I'll meet you at the end. I'm here at the end of row 8. At the end of this row, I have 84 stitches. Now for row 9 of the gusset, I'm going to knit 5 here at the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make one left. pass the stitch marker, knit 32. 1, 31 and 32. I'm running out of yarn here, so I'm going to attach my new ball. Now here we're going to make one right. So pick up this bar, put it onto the needle from front to back, and knit this stitch through the front. Now knit 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now make one left, knit this through the back, and continue and knit 32. I will meet you at the end of this 9th row of the gusset to show you how we're going to finish this row. I'm here at the end of the 9th row. I have knit these last 32 stitches. Now pass the stitch marker, and here make one right, now knit 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Past the beginning of the row stitch marker. This completes row 9 of the gusset. In this row we have increased, so at the end of this row I have 88 stitches. Now for row 10, all we're going to do for this row is just knit all around like this. For the front and back of the gusset we should now have 12 stitches. Continue, finish the 10th row where you just knit all around. I will meet you at the end. I finished row 10 of the gusset. In this row I have knit all around. Now this completes this part here. For the center and the back you should have 12 stitches. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start on the first leg. So to begin here we're going to move these stitch markers. This first stitch marker on the left side, I'm going to move back 2 stitches. This stitch marker on the right side, I'm going to move it 2 stitches here to the front. So here for the back side, you should have 2, 4, 6, 8 stitches. Now we're going to do the same thing for the stitch markers here in the front. I'm going to move this first stitch marker 2 stitches to the front. And this one, I'm going to move it 2 stitches to the back, like this. So that here for the front, I have 2, 4, 6, 8 stitches as well. And now each one of the legs has 36 stitches. We have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, and then 36 here for this side. So now let's start with this first leg. With the back side facing me, this would be the left leg. So to begin here, here's my beginning of the row stitch marker. Leave it there for a moment. Here we're going to knit 5. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now for the first leg, I am going to knit 36 stitches. Keep that stitch marker there because at the end I'm going to remove these stitches, so I want to make sure I have the correct number of stitches. So now knit 32 stitches, but I'm going to do this with these needles here because these are going to be too short. So I'm going to knit the leg with the same needles, but these are longer. So that's 2, 35, 36. Now I'm going to leave these stitches for a moment. Now I'm going to remove these 8 stitches for the front of the gusset. So with a yarn needle and some yarn, remove these 8 stitches. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Remove that stitch marker. Now I'm going to remove the next 36 stitches for the second leg. "36." There. These are the stitches for the second leg. I'm going to place a stitch marker here. This is the first stitch that I removed. This is just to mark where I need to begin the leg, or the first row of this second leg. Now turn here. This is the back side. My stitch marker just fell, but here all we're going to do is just remove these 8 stitches. Also, this is for the back of the gusset. So now I'm going to continue with this first leg. I already knit the first row. I have 36 stitches here. So here with these longer needles, I'm going to continue with the magic loop technique to knit this in the round. You can also continue with that double pointed needles. That would be up to you. So my yarn is here. Make sure it's always to the front of the back needle. So here for row 2, 3, and 4, all we're going to do is just knit. Here, knit the first stitch. Now we're joined in the round in the second row, so all you're going to do is just knit all around for row 2, 3, and 4. So go ahead and finish row 2, 3, and 4. I'll meet you at the end of the 4th row. And remember, at the end of each row, we always have 36 stitches. I finished rows 2, 3, and 4 for the first leg here. Now we're going to start the ribbing for the bottom of the leg. So to do this for row 5, 6, 7, and 8, all we're going to do is we're going to knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, all around for the next 4 rows. So go ahead and finish row 5, 6, 7, and 8 where you knit 1, purl 1, and at the end of each row you're always going to have 36 stitches. I'll come back and show you row 9, and row 9 is where we're going to go ahead and cast off our stitches. Okay, I'm almost done with the leg. I have done a total of 4 rows here of knit 1, purl 1. So I have a total of 8 rows. Now what I'm going to do is cast off in the next row. So for row 9, I'm going to knit the first stitch, purl the next, bring the first stitch over the second, knit the next stitch, bring the first stitch that's on the needle over the second. Now purl the next stitch, bring the stitch over, knit the next, bring this stitch over, purl the next, bring the stitch over, and so on until all of the stitches have been cast off. Finish row 9. I will meet you at the end. I finished casting off my stitches. Now here at the end, this is my last stitch. I just cut my yarn and just passed my yarn through that last loop. So now we're going to join the last stitch with the first stitch so that this part here is even. So with a yarn needle here, we're going to go through the first stitch right here, this one here. And then we're going to go into this last stitch right there. And now it's joined. We can go through the inside here and weave this tail end to hide the ends. Go. I like to work my way up one more time and then down once and cut my yarn. There. This part is done, and that's how it looks. The little leg is all done. Look how cute that is. This is the front side. Now we're going to do the same thing here with the second leg. So we're going to go here to the front side. I have my needles here. These are the same size, they're just longer. So we're going to pick up our stitches here from the front side. Remember, I left the stitch marker here. So we're going to transfer these stitches back onto the needle. There. I have 36 stitches here for the leg. I can now remove this yarn here. So now I'm going to split my stitches. So now I'm going to attach my yarn. I'm going to do it right here, right next to the first stitch. So with a crochet hook, I can now remove this stitch marker. I don't need it anymore. I'm going to go right here and just pull a loop, untie a knot. There. And now I can work this first row. So we're going to start here from the front side, just knit all around for this first row. Again, I have 36 stitches, and this is the second leg. Now, so that there's no gap between this last stitch and the next one, just pull your yarn a little bit tighter for that last stitch and continue and knit to the end of the row. Here's the last stitch, knit, drop that needle, turn, push your cable, and now we're going to join in the round by just knitting the first stitch. So pull the needle from the back and knit the first stitch and continue all around for row 2, 3, and 4. After that, you're going to knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1 for a total of 4 rows. So row 5, 6, 7, and 8, you're going to knit 1, purl 1. And then on row 9, you're going to cast off your stitches. You're going to do exactly the same thing we did here. Continue, finish the second leg, and then I'll come back and show you how to close the center here. I finished the second leg. I did it exactly in the same way how I showed you here with the first one. So the legs are all done. This is the back side and this is the front. Now we're going to close this gap here right in the center. So turn the diaper cover on the wrong side here. And from the wrong side, we're going to close this gap here. The first thing that we need to do is we need to transfer these stitches onto double pointed needles. These are the same size, so just transfer these stitches. We have 8 stitches here onto the double pointed needles here. Now remove this yarn here and do the same thing for this side. I have 8 stitches on this side and 8 stitches on this side. Now cut some yarn. This is about 24-inch. I'm going to need a small tail to be left on this side, and then whatever yarn remains on this side we're going to use to close a small gap that's going to be left here between this part and the leg on this side and on this side. So make sure you cut a pretty long tail here. So to begin this part with your needle, we're going to go here and knit 2 together, the first 2 stitches. There. I've knit 2 together. Now knit 2 together the next 2. Now we're going to cast off the first stitch. So bring this stitch over the second. Again, knit 2 together. And bring this first stitch over the second. Knit 2 together. Bring this stitch over the second. Knit 2 together. And bring the first stitch over the second. Knit 2 together, and so on. And knit 2 together the last 2. And bring this stitch over. There. Now here at the end, just pass your yarn through this last loop, and this part here is closed. Now with this tail end, you're going to close and join this small gap that's here on this side, and the same thing here with this tail end on this side. Let me show you here. There is no right or wrong way of doing this part here. The important thing is that you close that small gap, because the center here is closed now. So here I'm going to go through this stitch right here, and this one here, go into the next one here, and this one with this one, and there's a small one here. Let's see how this looks. Let's turn this over. Let's see how this looks from the right side. Yes, that looks pretty good. So now do the same thing for this side. Let me show you how this looks. There, that's that side, that's finished. I'm going to go ahead and close this other gap, and then I'll come back and show you the finished diaper cover and give you the finished measurements. I finished closing the gaps here between the legs. It's all done. This part here, this is how it looks. So the diaper cover is done. This is the front, and this is the back side. Now let me give you the finished measurement. The total length from the top of the waist to the end of the leg, it's measuring about 21 centimeters, which is about 8.25 inches. The leg length from the gusset to the end of the leg, it's measuring about 3 centimeters, which is about 1 1/8 of an inch. From the top of the waist to the middle here of the gusset, it's measuring about 18 centimeters, which is about 7 inches. And the width, just the top right here through the middle, I just measured this part here, just the top, it's measuring about 20 centimeters, which is about 8 inches. So based on these measurements, this diaper cover or baby shorts is for baby girls and boys between 0 and 3 months. I made them to match the little sweater. This is the Lily Cardigan sweater. In the information box, you can find find the link to this tutorial. Now comment below and let me know if you want me to show you how to make the baby pants. I'll gladly go ahead and do that. So this was today's tutorial. I hope you like it. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.